of the world on your shoulders. Child, don't forget who you are. Don't lose your head or your heart. I bet my life on your stars. You'll be dancing, dancing on the moon.
Somehow I woke up out in Beverly, fucked up, smelling like that bourbon, and I end up alone. I'm not certain. Yeah, the girls impolite in the club every night. That's how it goes when you Hollywood perfect. Hollywood perfect. That's how it goes when you Hollywood perfect. Ain't got no place to call my own. Feels like I'm better off alone. So sad inside and hopeless. These Hollywood hoes never notice. Can't get back on. Girl, I miss you. Can't get back on. Girl, I miss you. Somehow I woke up out in Beverly, fucked up, smelling like that bourbon, and I end up alone. I'm not certain. Yeah, the girls impolite in the club every night. That's how it goes when you Hollywood perfect. Hollywood perfect. That's how it goes when you Hollywood perfect. Woke up out in Beverly, fucked up, smelling like that bourbon, how'd I end up alone? I'm not certain. Yeah, the girls impolite in the club every night. Somehow I woke up out in Beverly, fucked up, smelling like that bourbon, how'd I end up alone? I'm not certain. Yeah, the girls impolite in the club every night. That's how it goes when you're Hollywood perfect. Yeah, I'm on my way home. I'm no good for you, so I drive around Manhattan. They're all laughing, oh, I'm tragic. Yeah, I'm driving in my car and seeing open, but I can't go down that road again. I'll smoke a cigarette, but will that help me forget you? Will that help me forget you? I just need to forget you. Oh, you. I need to treat you better than that and make you feel like I did in the past. Oh, I will treat you better than that. I don't need to forget you. I need to treat you better than that and make you feel like I did in
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to TTML. We are here for round 7 of the championship. It's season 3 as we take in the Autodromo Nazionale di Monza for the Italian Grand Prix. My name is James Hay, going to be taking you through the stream as always on a Tuesday night here in Division 1. And joining me in the commentary box is Mr. PSGL F1 himself. It is Mr. Luke Etheridge. Luke, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thanks. Interesting to hear that the PSGL's the league that you mentioned first tonight and not League of Europe. I think anyone who had the sweepstakes has lost a huge amount of money on that all of a sudden, but I am very well, thank you. Looking forward to what is going to be a fast and furious race around the Monza Royal Park. Such a historic circuit, has kept its high-speed nature over the years. I can't wait for this evening.
It is going to be fantastic. Of course, 84% of that track can be taken flat out. 4 corners to the left, 7 to the right, 11 corners in total for the guys out on track with 27 laps. Driver standings coming into tonight, informed that Medium Parler is not making it. He currently leads the championship low with 2 wins and 4 podiums to his name on 127 points. Perpetuum in second on 114, with Bullet Boy in third on 97. Later in fourth on 78, then Matthias in fifth on 75, Amazing Hour in sixth on 70, Lando in seventh on 68, Mashiva in eighth on 54, Schiaparelli in ninth in 49, and Totomo in 10th on 48. Medium Pilot not making it tonight, Luke. Perpetuum only 13 points behind here tonight. What can he do to resalvage that championship lead?
Most importantly, he's got to keep it clean and make sure he doesn't go for any risky overtakes, because that is what cost him at Silverstone. He did, of course, if you remember back to that race, finish 5th across the line. He got himself a 5-second penalty, and with how close things were, basically lost a place for every single second that he got a penalty. So instead of finishing 5th, he finished down in 10th. He's got to have a good qualifying session. He was so strong at the start of the season, 3 pole positions in a row, but Austria and Britain, his qualifying has just let him down ever so slightly. Of course, in Austria, he just didn't seem to have a lot of pace, crashed out at Beckett's and Chapel last time out at Silverstone, so he'll be hoping that he gets it clean in qualifying, which is important. We said it's a high-speed circuit with lots of, full throttle sections, about 85%, a few heavy braking zones, but big tendency towards DRS trains on this circuit. So if you're starting further down the field, especially as the tyre wear isn't too much, can be difficult to make your way up.
Yeah, as I always say in commentaries, there's one thing to try and catch up to a driver and another thing to try and overtake. And I think this track is the perfect example of that coming into tonight. Volbeek in 11th on 47 points along with Verstappen, Koenblai in 13th on 45, Dobby in 14th on 43, Noon in 15th on 38, Venoms in 16th on 34, Carlsbury 17th 29, Combi in 18th reserve on 23, with Zerdemer in 19th on 22 and Armadi in 20th on 18 points. Racing Point also leading the constructors coming into tonight on 195 points, basically because they've been more consistent than the Ferrari team. Ferrari are in second 143, but Bullet Boy leading the charge with the Haas in 141. Racing Point have got a substantial advantage. They cannot be beaten here tonight in terms of the constructors. They cannot be overtaken, I should say. But Haas on the back of Ferrari, and that's been led by a Bullet Boy charge.
It is indeed, and Dobby, though, to be fair to him, consistently in the last 2 races, top 8 in both of them. He's stepped up his game since a couple of retirements at Spain and Azerbaijan, so he's sort of helping his way along. It's going to be a big help for both Ferrari and the Haas team tonight that, of course, there is only going to be 1 Racing Point scoring points. Even if Racing Point do get a reserve driver in, they don't count towards the Constructors' Championship points, so they're not going to have that to deal with. You've got to say, coming off the back of 2-1-2s, Racing Point are looking really strong indeed. Perpetuum not having a great race last time. Neither did Bullet Boy, really, but he keeps picking up the fastest lap points. He keeps going. He's had 2 fastest lap points this season in races where he finished 17th and 13th. With how close his championship could be, that attitude of, I've just got to get to the end, I'll get points if I finish. If I set a fastest lap, that's an extra bonus point. That could really serve him well, because it's still mathematically possible that he ends up leading the championship by the end of tonight.
Could be indeed. And yeah, Perpetuum only 13 points, as you say, coming into tonight on the back of Medium Pilot. The consistency is the key around this circuit at the Autodromo Nazionale di Monza. And let's have a look at that track map in question before, of course, we get back underway. 5.7 kilometres takes the drivers around the track, with the 2 DRS zones, of course, 1 down the start-finish straight and 1 down in towards the Ascari at turns 8, 9 and 10. 5.7, as I say. Tyre compound C2, C3 and C4 compound tyres at the softs, mediums and the hards, I believe. And dynamic weather could make it quite interesting out on track, especially if it becomes into wet conditions. But I will throw it over to you, Luke. We are about to get going for qualifying. What can we expect?
Slipstreams galore in qualifying. If this is where you're really going to see which teams are working together as a team, you gain so much time around here. And because apart from Lesmos and Parabolica, there's not really any medium speed corners, so you don't really lose too much time being in the dirty air of a car behind. This is going to be absolutely fantastic. It's going to be fast. It's going to be frenetic. I can't wait.
It's going to be fantastic indeed, and hopefully you have got the best seats in the house tonight as we are about to get underway here for qualifying at the Autodromo Nacional de Monza, and we cannot wait to bring you the action. So without further ado, let's get started, let's get out on track, and let's get into qualifying. Good evening everyone and welcome along to TTML Season 3. We are here for Round 7 of the Championship as we take in the Autodromo Nacional de Monza for the Italian Grand Prix. There are 3 compound of tyres available for the drivers out on track tonight. The C2, C3 and C4 compound, the softs, mediums and the hards. Softest being the fastest tyre and the hards being the long-lasting tyre out on track. 84% of this track can be taken at flat-out speed with 4 corners to the left and 7 corners to the right, as I've already said, coming into tonight. Let's have a look then at the track map in question. You've just seen it, but let's review it anyways. 5.7 kilometres, taking them around 11 turns, 2 DRS zones, 1 down the start finish straight, 1 down in towards Ascari. It is shaped like a bootleg-shaped track in the shape of a boot, so that's why how you can imagine the Autodromo Nacional de Monza and how you can imagine how these guys are going to get round on this track tonight. So without further ado then, let's get started into qualifying. More notable thing early on is it is dry in qualifying, and I'm very glad.
I'm very glad as well, but I think the drivers will be extremely glad as well. Being a low downforce circuit, it can be quite trickier than some of the others. I always think of the Monza sort of shaped to like a gun, which is kind of ironic in a way, considering they're probably about as fast as a speeding bullet around certain parts of this track. But yeah, this should be a really interesting session. Unsurprisingly, most of the drivers are going to go out on the soft tyres. It is a straightforward one-stop, soft to medium, or medium-soft if you're going for that alternate strategy around here. And the pit stops will probably be around halfway through the race, especially if you start on fresh tyres, round about lap 13 or 14. Just got to hope that you keep it nice and clean. It is easy to make mistakes on this circuit. It's fairly easy to invalidate coming through Ascari and the Roggia chicane. Other parts where through Parabolica as well, it's difficult. And Ascari, everyone has fallen victim at some point, whether you're a professional league racer or whether you're just a casual player, everyone has fallen victim to that curb at the exit of Ascari. Hopefully, these drivers are wary of that.
They have, and I'm the first to admit that I have bottled around here before quite a number of times in my league racing career. That's why I'm in the commentary box now alongside you, Luke, and these guys are doing the hard work, of course, out on track. Lando was the first man out on track. He now comes through Ascari through turns 9 and 10, and it's fantastic to see. Only 1 racing point, of course, here with medium pilot absent, so he is now solely reliant on picking up points for the constructors' leaders coming into tonight. Let me ride on you on board then with Landos. He comes round Parabolica at turn 11, scene of Alex Peroni's horrific crash in F3, but now coming across the line now to start on this lap, and you can already see reaching in excess of 210, 215 mile an hour possible down into the straight, even 220, breaks out the 100 metre board and gets the car turned in to the Della Roggia chicane through turns 1 and 2, then through Curva Grande and then into the Retfilial chicane at turns 4 and 5. He now comes through Curva Grande, sticking to the curb very nicely, tries to save as much ground on that apex as possible. Looking good through the first sector in terms of lap time, and through the first sector to 26.154 from Lando. Through that first sector, looking very good. He's got a Ferrari out on track as Schiaparelli has already retired from the session. Not sure what's happened to him out on track, but Lando now coming through the first Lesmo, and now coming through the second Lesmo. Don't let that get you confused with something else, as he now comes through the curve and now runs down in towards Ascari at turn 8, 9 and 10. It's a quick lap so far from Lando, 52.2 in the middle sector. Not too bad at all from the Racing Point, from the Brit out on track. 26.1 is his personal best. 26.4 set by Fuller Boy in behind him as well through that middle sector. But now Lando coming up towards Parabolica. Let's see how quickly and good he can control this car coming through Parabolica. Very nice indeed. He runs wide slightly, but now comes across the line, takes a thin line for possible to cross the line, and it's a 1:18.4 to start off the tonight. It's not a bad lap there at all from Lando.
No, not bad at all for a first run. Managed to keep it clean. I've already been on board with a few other drivers who have struggled. Verstappen there, 1:18.1, instantly beaten by Zhao Zhao, who is replacing Amazing Hour as a full-time driver in that Williams. So Zhao Zhao hitting the ground running for the Williams team, which is probably a good job. Shapalele, not quite sure what happened there. Just looks like he was maybe a bit too heavy on the throttle coming out of the Rettifilio chicane. Just span around and hit that wall on the left-hand side. He'll be starting towards the back of the grid. We've seen him make some comebacks from further back so far this season. Of course, last time he started on pole. So we'll see what he can do this time around.
Can indeed. Zhao Zhao, yeah, to the top of the standings. He is in a league that I'm not going to mention now, but if you are playing James Head, LOE, Bingo, I'm not going to mention it. Except from that time there. Zhao Zhao out on top, Verstappen in second, Lando in third. I've just dig myself into a grave, I think, by saying that. Noon in fourth, Carlsbury currently in fifth. Not many lap times on the board, but Bianchi coming across the line to start off on his lap, I believe, and he'll be hoping to try and get a very good lap time in. He is the homeboy, of course, the Italian. Did very well around here last season, if I recall, in TTL F1 Division 1, it was back in the day. But he did really well around this track, and he should be a leading contender, I think, tonight.
Yeah, he had a very good race last time out in Silverstone as well. His first race so far this season. Managed to pick up a good amount of points in sixth position, driving for Ferrari. I'm sure he wishes he was in a Ferrari tonight, rather than the Mercedes, just taking too much curb there. On the inside of the Roggia chicane, we see that so often. It's a very flat curve. It tempts you to just cut it a bit too much. And there we go. Bianchi, unfortunately for him, has fallen for that and has got over that curb. Lap invalidated, thankfully being quite a short track in terms of lap time. As you can already see, sub 80 seconds will be seen by everyone today. I think even anyone who does try and attempt to qualify on the medium tyres, he's got plenty of time to head round to the pits, bolt on another set of soft tyres and give it another go.
Yeah, you can get about 4 runs, I think, here in Italy because of the nature of the track. Recon coming around the final corner to come across the line. What's his lap time going to be? He goes third, 1:18.285. And noticeably, that is on a second run out on track for the 1:18.285. That's on a second lap, I should say. And he puts him third, just behind Zhao Zhao and Verstappen. And Lucas there in the comment section saying Zhao on pole is called. Not too much so far. We've only got 6 minutes gone. Don't get your hopes up just yet. Zhao Zhao on top, Verstappen in second, Recon in third. Perpetuum is there on an out lap, and in the Ferrari, he's about to take us through a lap of the Autodromo Nacional de Monza.
Yeah, let's see how he does in the Ferrari. He's invalidated his out lap, but he won't be worried about that whatsoever as he comes up through the gears towards the finish line. 200 miles per hour as you open the DRS, as you cross the finish line, and you've still got an incredibly long way to go towards the Rettifilio chicane. Extremely hard to pick your braking point just before the 100 metre board. You'll see some short shifting, I am sure, on the exit. Not too much, actually. Decides to use most of the revs of the engine there, going through second, third and fourth. Normally drivers tend to short shift just to allow them to put the throttle down a bit heavier, but he's doing it the more old-fashioned, traditional ways. He now heads underneath the Pirelli bridge, braking at the 100 metre board. Keeps it nice and steady through there, and we do see the short shift. A very decent first sector then from Perpetuum at this moment in time. That was a 25.866. Well, that's a Verstappen, fastest of anyone, 25.819, so not looking too bad for the Ferrari so far. Now heading downhill towards that old Monza banking. Last using the tragic 1961 Italian Grand Prix towards Viascari chicane. Fantastic CF1 cars coming through here. Left, right, left again, just clipping that curb on the left-hand side. Using almost all of the runoff area there, but just making sure that you keep at least 2 wheels over the white line to avoid invalidating your lap. Now towards the Parabolica, you want to get as early on the throttle as possible here, taking a bit of a later apex to allow you to straighten the car up, sticking to the right hand side of the track. What sort of time is it going to be for Perpetuum? 1:18.017, 14 thousandths off of Zhao Zhao, fastest of everyone in the final sector. We've said it every race so far this season. This is going to be an incredibly close qualifying session.
He lost his time on that lap time in the middle sector as well, because Zhao Zhao in the first sector was a 25.930. Perpetuum was actually quicker in the first sector on his lap. 26 flat though, he lost 800ths of a second compared to Zhao Zhao, who is now back on a lap, and he's actually just behind him, out on track as well, as we now come into the Rettifield chicane once again. Zhao Zhao on top, Petton second, Verstappen in third. At this stage, Hardy on lap times, D on lap times as well. D goes up into sixth with a 1:18.540, so good lap from him. Now Zhao Zhao running through the middle sector. Now comes through the second level, gets caught on the curb on the outside, but it's not looking too bad. However, he's invalidated his lap time as he now runs down the hill in towards Ascari, and that will not fill him up with the greatest amount of confidence as he approaches halfway in qualifying.
No, well, Lesmo's another one of them. It can be tricky to just get it right. You always want to carry in a bit more speed. They are slightly banked, those corners, so they do allow you to take more speed. Back in the 80s, they were so heavily banked, you could almost go flat out through the second Lesmo. It was crazy to see. It has slowed down slightly due to safety reasons, but this is going to be a pattern we see in the race. When you're pushing this hard with low amounts of downforce, there will be some invalidations, and the pit lane entry here is also incredibly tricky. If you start braking when you see the speed limit sign come up on your heads-up display, it is too late and you will get a penalty. So always do see a few more pit lane speeding penalties here, as Verstappen has somehow managed to fit his car in between that gap between Zhao Zhao and Petton. He's just 4,000ths off pole position and just 100th ahead of the Ferrari.
Yeah, very good lap there from Verstappen out on track. We've caught the final sector from him, certainly, and he goes into second in that minute gap, as you say, between Zhao Zhao and Petton. That was 1400ths of a second. Now separating the top three. The closest finish around this track, top five, was separated by 0.61 of a second. That was in 1961 out on track. But Zhao Zhao out on top, Verstappen second, Petton in third. 50 years on, it is still 300ths of a second. 1400ths of a second separating the guys out on track. So it's going to be fascinating to see. Dobby has just started off on a lap time. I believe Lando was on a good lap as Matthias has gone into fourth with a 1:18.1. Lando coming through the middle sector. Not too bad. It's a 30 flat, in fact, and he's not off this lap at all. So Lando is not on a lap here, and looks like he is coming back towards the pit lane.
Yeah, it does. I was watching a bit of his first lap on this run, and it did look as though it was a 10th up in the first sector, so maybe losing a bit of time in the second and the third sector. But two Alfa Romeos, I've just seen doing an absolutely brilliant job of the slipstream down towards the Parabolica. Koen Blige really gaining quite a bit of time off of Verstappen there. As long as he nails this final corner, he's going to get a bit of help off of XL Hardy as well. And there we go, Koen now up into 7th place. Alfa Romeo's not looking too bad at the moment. Neither is Recon in 5th place, but I feel like we've said this a lot about Recon this season. At some point, he's got to come good, but we keep saying this, and he's yet to really come good in the races. Not finished in the top 10, retired in 4 out of the 6 races. Is this finally going to be the one at AlphaTauri's home circuit, where the AlphaTauri team, the Faenza-based team, have a bit of history of getting the odd shock results, just as Sebastian Vettel and Pierre Gasly? Is today going to be the day where we really see what Recon can do? And what we know he can do is he now heads towards the line, moves himself up into 4th.
He does indeed, 1:18.148. I was on board with Bullet Boy coming through Ascari there as well, and he's back into the pit lane after invalidating on the outside of Ascari, running through the exit of the curve at turn 10. So that was his invalidation point. He was on a good lap until that point. Mashiro, which is your teammate of Recon, as I nearly choke on my own words there. Zhao Zhao on top, Verstappen second, Petton in third. Mashiro then in 15th position on a set of soft compound tyres. The Japanese man, the Division 2 champ from last season, will be hoping for a very good result, as through that first sector he set a 26 flat, which is not too bad through the first sector from Mashiro. And now with 2/3 of qualifying nearly gone, it's still Zhao Zhao on top, Verstappen second, 52.1 I can see there on his steering wheel. Now flies through Ascari, through turn 9, through turn 10, 25.9 through the middle sector. This is a good lap from Mashiro. If you can pull it up towards the top 5, Reeconomatize, I should say, as I start a cough. Petton is just in behind him. I think Carl's getting out of the way there as well. But Mashiro now coming through the final couple of corners, through Parabolica for the final time on this lap. Comes across the line, and he goes 6th with a 1:18.2. Not a bad lap, and that was his first run as well.
Yeah, very good first run there from Mashiro. I'm wondering if he stayed in the pits because he was wondering what setup to go on. I'm wondering if he was wondering what setup to go on, because we've got some news from Chapelele, who, unfortunately for him, doesn't really have much else to do for the rest of this qualifying session, other than go in the YouTube chat, but it is much appreciated. Dry start, rain at the plus 20 minutes mark, dry at the plus 45 minute mark. Now, it is Monza, we might not even get to the plus 45 minute mark, it is such a fast circuit, but having some rain will definitely spice things up, especially if it's only forecast to be in the middle of the race. There could be some very interesting strategies going on here, especially outside the top 10.
Yeah, it is going to be fascinating, of course. 5 minutes to go then in qualifying. Jajo out on top, Verstappen second, Perpetum in third position. Not sure if Perpetum's actually on a lap. He comes across the line. Oh, and he goes pole, in fact. 1:17.8. I totally caught that right at the end of that lap. And Perpetum, 1:17.8. He puts it now on pole position. And whoever predicted Jajo earlier on, I'm sorry, your bubble has just been burst.
Yeah, burst in quite spectacular fashion. Fantastic lap by Perpetuum. Maybe that'll be the last time we see him in this session. Don't know whether he'll feel the need to go out again. He'll have time if he so wishes to. XL Hardy on a lap at the moment, just headed around the second Lesmo in 13th place in this session at the moment. Has only done one race this season. That was the Spanish Grand Prix where he didn't do too badly at all, finishing in 7th place. A quite different circuit, so no real indicator on how he's going to do. He's flying though on this lap at this moment in time, half a tenth up on his personal best. If he just keeps that improvement at the moment, he'll get himself up into 6th place. If he finds another tenth or two in the final sector, we might even see him manage to get on the front row here in the McLaren, who have been fairly consistent with Laser and Volby, their two full-time drivers. So let's see what the McLaren driver can do as he heads towards the finish line on this lap. There we go, 6 tenths up on his personal best, puts him onto the second row of the grid for now. He'll be very pleased with that improvement.
Very good indeed, and top 6 separated by just over 0.3 of a second out on track, nearly 0.4 of a second from those guys. But Perpetum out on top. Jajo, by the way, all the way down to Matthias is separated by just under 0.2 of a second as well. So it is quite close. Perpetum currently leading the field. Jajo second, Verstappen in third. Amadi coming back into the pit lane there in the Renault. Kunglai, I think, has just started off on this lap, possibly his final run. And now we see the Alfa Romeo come in towards the first sector. Carlsbury is also, I think, out there. Bianchi and Noon will be trying to improve further down the field. Noon is back into the pit lane, but Kunglai then coming through the first sector, not looking too bad in terms of his first sector, 25.913, and he's on the limit to try and improve on this lap. Dobby, Amadi is within his range by 500 to the second. They separate from 8th down to 10th. But Kunglai coming through this middle sector. Let's see what he can do. Perpetum out on top still. From Jajo second, Verstappen in third. If you are just tuning in at this point, through Ascari to 26 flat from Kunglai. It's not looking too bad. I wouldn't say it's looking around Amadi's situation. It could be around Mashiro, Amadi, 7th and 8th position possibly. But Kunglai now coming in towards the final corner at Parabolica. There's a yellow flag in sector 3 just in behind. I'm not sure if that's a car that's actually lost it coming out of Parabolica. But now it comes across the line. Does Kunglai. Comes across the line. And he goes 7th, just within 5,000th of a second, in fact, of Matthias. So good lap there from Kunglai.
Yeah, not bad whatsoever, especially when you consider I was on board with him on his previous fastest run, and he got a slipstream off his teammate there, well, on the earlier run, on the run down towards Parabolica. Whether he got it earlier on and we just missed it on camera, I'm not quite so sure, because if he didn't, who knows where he could have been in that session. But it looks like now he's in the perfect place to maybe give his teammate a bit of a tow, possibly on the run down to Ascari, possibly on the run down to the Parabolica, although at the moment Verstappen does have a Renault in the way, I believe, and that is Amadi on an outlap, so Verstappen on an outlap as well, so shouldn't really be a problem, but Amadi will want to back up. All sorts of yellow flags going on here as I think cars just get out of the way. Bullet Boy's gone straight on at the chicane to try and avoid taking anyone out. Yet to set a lap time. We don't know whether the alternate strategy could be extremely powerful just because of the weather conditions. We'll just have to wait and see.
Laser's just invalidated coming through the Retrofedio chicane, the left-hander there coming through, and he, I'm not sure if I'm getting mixed up, by the way, between the chicanes. Perpetum out on top, JJ second, Verstappen in third. Laser has invalidated on this lap. He was on a set of soft compounded tyres. He was hoping to try and improve at least a second on that lap time to put him towards Hardy, recon sort of area, but he will have to wait at least another 50 seconds as Noon absolutely flies past on an out lap, and the next one to come across the line to start any sort of lap time is Verstappen, who's just started the lap coming down in towards turn 1.
Yeah, we'll see what Verstappen can do. I wouldn't blame you if you got mixed up with the names of chicanes here. I think I spent an entire commentary once calling the second chicane the Variante Bassa, which is at Imola. So this was before we even had the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix, so I have no idea whatsoever why that was on my mind, but there we go. Verstappen's got a nice clear track ahead of him. Good, so you don't get any dirty air. Bad, so you don't get any slipstream around this circuit. Zhao on a lap as well. He didn't improve on his first one, and Verstappen Another victim of that second chicane of the Rogier, not the Variante Pasta chicane. We'll see, well, third place is the best he is going to be. We'll see if anyone else can improve. The two Alpha Tauri seem to be doing a bit of slipstreaming here, just on the main straight. Don't know whether this is intentional at this moment in time. Checkered flag is out, and Recon's getting a lovely little boost on the rundown. 214 miles per hour, so you're talking 340 easy kilometres per hour there. Nearly 345. That's not a bad start to a lap, but checkered flag is out. We'll see if anyone looks like they are improving at this moment in time, especially amongst the big drivers. And it does look as though Zhao Zhao is finding quite a lot of time, quarter of a second up at the moment.
He is indeed, and now comes out of the final sector through Ascari, and now in towards Parabolica. 118 flat is his lap time. Can he try and beat Perpetuum for pole position? Could it be a 117.7 perhaps? Amadia's retired out on track. He's crashed coming through Ascari, I believe. So Zhao Zhao now towards the line. Let's see what the Dane can do. I did predict him on, and he's came into the pit lane. So Zhao Zhao into the pit lane is out of the session. Perpetuum then is on a lap time here coming through Ascari. Not looking too bad through the middle sector, but Perpetuum literally has got pole position in his grasp. Recon could try and snatch out of the way. I think he's just in the background of shot there, Recon as well, but Perpetuum coming around the final corner. Laser not improving, neither is Coon Blind, neither is Noon, as Perpetuum comes across the line. To the line, that's a 117.7. I don't think that can be beaten unless Recon is finding a lot of time out on track. Carlsbury retires out on track as well into the pit lane. Recon then toward the line, see if he can improve. He doesn't in the end. Recon does not improve. Matthias has got no front wing out on track either. So the Red Bull coming around the final corner. Mashiva was not improving either. He will not get another lap in as he comes across the line. He sacrificed himself for his teammate Matthias into the pit lane. That is the end of qualifying. It's Perpetuum out on top. Zhao Zhao in second, and Verstappen in third.
Again, not a lot of improvements on the later runs of the session. Got to say though, Dobby a fantastic time to get himself up into fourth, but I think towards the end, I went on board with Zhao Zhao, I went on board with Lando, I went on board with Bianchi. I think there were others in there as well. They'd all invalidated their laps, so they all seemed to be struggling. Good job by Dobby though. I wonder if Matthias and Bullet Boy, Matthias and Dobby, I wonder if there was a bit of contact between them, because I think we did see Bullet Boy going off, I believe, at that second chicane. I wonder if there was any contact, maybe as his hat has come off across the track. But Perpetuum, he didn't have to worry about that. I think that's probably the biggest pole position margin we've seen this year, nearly 0.3 of a second for the German.
And it comes at the temple of speed as well, which is even more surprising, I think. Perpetuum then out on top by nearly 0.3 of a second, as you say. Zhao Zhao all the way down to Bianchi, by the way, separated by less than 0.5 of a second. So Zhao Zhao out on top in second, best of the rest. Verstappen in third with Dobby in fourth, Hardy in fifth. Good qualifying from him, actually. Recon in sixth with Noon in seventh, Matthias in eighth, Kuhn Bly in ninth, Mashivo rounding off the top 10. Nearly 5.5 tenths separating the top 10. With Armadine 11th, Lando in 12th, Carsby 13th, Bianchi 14th, later in 15th on a set of mediums, Bullet Boy 16th, and Schiaparelli not getting a lap time in either. Bullet Boy, by the way, starting in third position coming into the championship tonight. He's 16th out on track, didn't get a good lap time in at all.
Didn't get a lap time in at all, never mind a good lap time. That's the danger with, if you invalidate your first couple of runs and you leave it quite late, you're under a lot of pressure. There's everyone pretty much going out on track. You can't afford to wait too late. It's, I can tell you, extremely overcast at the moment around the Monza circuit. So we know the game has originally predicted 20 minutes, so now we're getting the blocks of rain up. I don't know about you, James, but I found that, especially on this game, they always seem to get it slightly wrong. They always seem to predict the rain to come later than it actually does, or they predict it to stop later than it actually does. So even if it only says it's going to rain for the final two blocks, don't be surprised if by lap 5 or 6 we start seeing a few spits.
I wouldn't be surprised at all. It could be one of those races where it starts to rain quite early out on track, and then guys are playing catch-up later on in the race if they switch from the inters. It could actually be one of those scenarios where the rain is so light out on track, it remains dry, but they're still struggling around on that set of soft, set of medium compounded tyre. I would imagine, though, it's going to go to inters as opposed to staying on a set of soft compounded tyres. But then again, I've been wrong before in the commentary box, and I would not take it with a pinch of salt if I'm wrong again, to be honest. But there we are. Autodromo Nacional de Monza waiting us here tonight as we get going into the formation lap. 27 drivers... 27 drivers? 27 laps awaiting these drivers out on track. Perpetuum out on top, Zhao Zhao in second, Verstappen in third. Let's have a look then at the tyre graphics out there on the left-hand side. and everyone in the top 10, of course, qualifying on a set of soft compound tyres. Everyone in behind, typically going for the one stop, and I'm down to Sheffield, all on a set of mediums.
Which tells us absolutely nothing about what this weather could possibly do, of course, because that is what you'd expect in normal dry conditions. So we could probably safely rule out that the game suggested that it will be dry at least for the first stint of this race, for at least the first 10 laps. We'll see what turns out to end up being the right strategy. Of course, if it is forecast to be dry later on, will it even rain heavy enough for the drivers to need the intermediate tyres? I've done races myself where it's always just stayed at that sort of level for pretty much the entire race, where there is rain on screen, you can see the rain on track, you definitely lose it a few seconds a lap, but it's never quite wet enough for the intermediate tyres, and I think those are the conditions that the drivers hate the most, because it is extremely difficult, and no matter what you do, you always seem to be on the wrong tyre. The dry tyres just struggle to keep any heat in them, and the intermediates have the opposite problem. They just end up overheating, and you burn them up, and you have to replace them after only a few laps.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. Tire deck around this track as well is quite low as opposed to other tracks on the F1 calendar. Air temperature, by the way, is 23 degrees. Track temperature of 31 degrees out on track. So it is quite hot, even with the overcast conditions out on track. And that means there could be a thunderstorm awakening us out on track. Possibly 27 laps though awaiting these drivers out on track. We see a bit of PG18 now as Zhao Zhao goes inside of Perpetuum. And now Perpetuum goes relatively inside of Zhao Zhao, which is not a nice sight to see. Cover your eyes, children, if you are watching. Perpetuum out on top, Zhao Zhao in second, Verstappen in third. We have got the final cars, though, rounding off the grid. Sheffield right at the back there, coming through Parabolica. I'm going to cross to you, Luke, quickly. Who's your top three?
Ooh, well, firstly, I just want to say, if we do get a Ferrari and a Williams mating, hopefully we don't get the chassis of the Williams and the engine of the Ferrari, because that'd just be diabolical. I think Perpetuum's going to end up taking this victory today. Oh, I don't want to be boring and go for Zhao Zhao in second, but I'm going to have to. And I'm going to go for someone outside. I'm going to think Lando. We've seen him do this alternate strategy before. I think he can get on the podium.
Well, it'll be interesting to see. Let's have a look then at how this race is going to unfold out on track. The 5 red lights are hopefully going to be going out, and now they are coming on for round 7 of the championship here in Season 3 in Italy. And it's lights out and away we go. Zhao Zhao gets a much better, quicker start, and now Zhao Zhao's going to be on the inside line. He's already got Perpetuum running down into towards turn 1. The debutant takes the lead then on Perpetuum, and he's 2 tenths ahead going down and towards turn 1. Perpetuum late on the brakes. Verstappen trying to hold Dobby around the outside line. He does. He stays third. Dobby in fourth, Hardy in fifth, Recon in sixth. Pretty much the top 6 have remained as they are. Mashiro getting a couple of positions. Kumbly down, and there's a crash in the background. That's Bullet Boy, I think, crashing off into the background of shot. VSC has already been deployed. Bullet Boy went spearing off in the background there and has lost his entire front wing.
He has indeed, and if he was hoping to get those mediums until the rain comes, that plan has gone ruined. He was probably hoping that would have caused a full safety car. Zhao Zhao must have... Was it Austria 2018 where Bottas got the start absolutely perfect, lifted the clutch as the lights went out? Because Zhao Zhao got a much better start than anyone. It's not like Perpetuum got a bad start, because Verstappen and Dobby weren't really anywhere near challenging him. But VSC has ended. Bullet Boy is able to carry on, but he will be a long way down the field, so it's all about damage limitation for him now. Everyone else, though, seems to have got through the first few corners cleanly, and them clouds are still hanging around, but obviously very early stages, no rain yet, and in fact Matthias has a tiny bit of front wing damage, but I doubt that was related to the Bullet Boy incident, given their respective starting positions.
Yeah, I think it might have been a turn 1 Constantino effect. We've seen Schiaparelli going side by side with Bianchi. Bianchi on the outside line. Bullet Boy is already spun coming through Ascari as well. Schiaparelli, though, takes position. Down the inside he goes, and he's up into 14th position out on track. Bianchi there in 15th. But it is Zhao Zhao who does lead the way. Don't mislead by those graphics on the left-hand side. It is Zhao Zhao who leads the way. Kumbly suddenly was leading the way on my screen there, but Zhao Zhao leads from Perpetuum in second. Then in third is the Alfa Romeo of Verstappen. Dobby got very wide there. There's been a little bit of a mixed match there. Recon, Noon trying to go to the outside line. Bullet Boy retires coming into the pit lane, and now Recon trying to squeeze Noon all the way to the curb. Noon is still staying there, down into the Della Rocca chicane, but Zhao Zhao now leading the way. Perpetuum second, Verstappen in third, Dobby in fourth, and a 3-second time penalty, in fact, picked up by Recon. He cut the curb, coming across, and Noon is right on the back of him in the sister car.
Yeah, he seems to have been pushing the track limits extremely hard. Maybe not done as much practice in Grand Prix mode, not used to the heavier cars at this moment in time. But you've got Noon all over the back of Recon at the moment. DRS will be enabled next time around. First time they'll be able to use it is on the rundown to Ascari on lap 3, but with the length of the DRS train, it might be very hard for you to see any overtakes. Fantastic start by Lando, though. Up 4 positions into 8th place on those medium tyres. He could be in a very good position at the end of this race, depending on when or if we do get that rain.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. There is the confirmation of Recon's 3-second time penalty as well. Newton right on the back then of Recon coming across the line in turn. Mashivo right on the back of Matthias running down in towards turn 1. And still JJ leading the way for Betterman second. Kumblai has gone through on Cosby, and now Mashivo tries to look to the inside line. Lando, in fact, Noon has gone too deep, and I think Mashivo's run into the back there of Matthias. He might have picked up a little bit of damage. I'm not sure on that left side end plate. Doesn't seem to me as if it's visible, certainly. But JJ leading for Betterman second, Verstappen in third, and JJ has the advantage early on. Lando then in the medium compound tyres is right on the back of Noon, and hopefully they're not going to be excelling, or they're going to be trying to excel out on track.
Yeah, hopefully they don't end up spreading themselves all over the track, the XL drivers, at this moment in time, with how close they are together. But he's got a bit of a chance here, Lando, to be perfectly honest. Noon's just got himself back into DRS range, though, as I say that. But he's in not a bad place at the moment. The mediums will be slower than the soft tyres. He's got the DRS to help drag him along. And I do get a funny feeling, Lando and Noon, they're both in the same XL team. They're not in the same teams in the game, Red Bull and Racing Point at the moment for Noon and Lando respectively. I can't imagine Noon would put up too much of a fight, to be perfectly honest, if it did come to that. Matthias, though, he's in a good place as well. If Noon does let Lando by, I think he'd gratefully receive a position as well.
He will indeed, and I think with Dobby now setting the fastest lap, Hardy betters that fastest lap as well, out on track, 21.7 from Hardy. Jaja leading the way, but for how long? Because Papetum launches an attack to the outside line, coming through turn 1, now through turn 2, and gets the move done. Papetum on the inside line gets the move done, but now Jaja side by side, they make contact sliding. Will take this on board with Verstappen, who's run on the back, coming through Curva Grande. Papetum then is through. Jaja had to try and fight that, but now Verstappen on the inside line, got to try and cut. He's going to be boxed in, I think, running down in towards the chicane. Papetum leading the way, though. Jaja in second. How on earth they haven't made contact there is beyond me, but Papetum leads the way. Jaja in second. That was bold, it was brave, but it was brilliant by Papetum.
Yeah, fantastic move around the outside, and then he got a bit of wheel spin on the exit of the corner, which I think sent him towards Zhao, so they both had to lift, and that's what got Verstappen involved in it, who might be a bit aggrieved that there was 2 cars ahead of him. If it had just been one or the other, he could have well made a move there, but he stays in third place for now, had to really back off, so he's a bit further down. Now we'll see what Zhao can do in the DRS, and if these two keep swapping with straightforward passes in the DRS straight, they won't really slow each other down too much. If we do see a lot of battling like we did on that lap, they'll slow each other down quite a lot, and that might allow the likes of Verstappen, Dobby, Hardy and Recon to just close up to the back of them. It is extremely close between them at the moment. The top 6 drivers only separated by 2 seconds as we do come on to lap 5 of this race, and the Recon setting the fastest lap.
And you can tell he's at the fastest lap because he's right on the back of Hardy, looking down in towards turn 1, tries to look to the inside line, nobody getting the overtake done into the chicane. They pulled away from Noon though, 2.2 seconds, now 1.9 in fact, as they Constantine up coming in towards turn 1 and 2 there. Lando right on the back with Matthias under pressure, or pressurising him. Recon just dropped off the back there, with Verstappen now on the back of Jaja. Papetum leading the way though, from Jaja second, Verstappen in third, Dobby in fourth. I can't get my words out tonight. Hardy in fifth. Recon in sixth. Noon is catching though. He is in the clear air. And he's beginning to try and wrench this in. And if he gets onto the back of Recon, we could have a full race train, 1st to 16th, covered by about 10 seconds.
We pretty much expected it at Monza, didn't we? It's definitely one of those circuits where you do see this quite a lot with the long length of the straights and the slow corners. You don't really get affected by the dirty air. A, because you've not got as much downforce, and B, coming out of slow corners, you're not using the downforce, you're using the mechanical grip of these huge Pirelli tyres, of course, where they widened them in 2017. Colsby there picking up a 3-second penalty, so he's putting too much of those tyres over the white lines at this moment in time. Bertram wasn't under too much pressure from Zhao last time around, and again here he's got like a decent gap, about half a second, as we come to the DRS point. There's not too much difference between them in terms of electrical energy, so it does look as though things are calming, at least for the front 5 positions.
Amadi right on the back of Carlsby, running down in towards turn 1 as well. The Renault looks to the inside line, but doesn't get the move done. Both CWC rivals, of course, in on a Monday night. Carlsby still stays 12th, Amadi in 13th. I think Kumblai just made a slight mistake there onto the gravel, slightly coming out of turn 2. Kumblai in 11th, Carlsby 12th, Amadi in 13th. Papetum leading the way, Jajau in 2nd, Verstappen in 3rd. Dobby in 4th, everyone now settling down and no overtakes being made, which is a right shame. Out on track for lap 6 out of 27, now halfway through lap 6. Papetum comes out through the down into the curve and now down and towards Ascari. I'm not going to try and pronounce that curve, by the way, because I forgot physically the corner name of that. Papetum leading the way from Jaja in second, Verstappen though in third, and Papetum under a little bit of pressure. You can see in terms of the usable energy as well. Out on track, 81% of ERS for Papetum, 91% I should say for Jiao Jiao. That's just change of course as they use it up slightly. Lando then is on the back of Noon. I wonder if Lando is going to be let through possibly by Noon sooner rather than later, because they're both in the same team, the esports team wise, but they're both in the same team out on track. But you would imagine that the mediums are going to be coming better than the set of softs, and in fact Lando is not going to hang around for this overtake. It's job done, halfway down the straight, Lando through into 7th.
Yeah, I think even if Noon could have made it a tiny bit harder, but I think he realised he didn't have any choice. It didn't matter that it was a fellow XL driver behind him. Lando got such a good exit out. Power Molecule was so close. With the DRS, nothing Noon could do. It would have just held him up even more. Now we'll see if Lando could try and catch up to some of these drivers ahead, because medium tyres will just about heading to the point where the mediums on his car will be better than the softs on those drivers ahead of him. But they've got the DRS now and he hasn't, and it does definitely gain you a good couple of tenths of a second easily around this circuit, as that is rain. We have seen some rain. I'm not seeing things at this moment in time. I do promise we are starting to get some rain. Everyone on the soft tyres is hoping that it starts throwing it down now, otherwise they could be in a very awkward situation.
Even my terrible eyesight can confirm it is now rain out on track. You can see on board the Halo, on board with Hardy at the minute, you can see on board with the Halo, if you see the spots of rain coming down in front of the Halo, as Armour D has actually crashed coming through Ascari, halfway through Ascari there from Armour D, but Recon is just behind Hardy, trying to get this move done noticeably, but the rain has now started out on track. It's actually earlier than expected, and now Jiao Jiao's going to launch an attack on Papetum, halfway down the straight. Everyone, and Papetum is now going to be a sitting duck as Jiao Jiao is through into the lead of the race. Recon run on the back of Hardy, just in behind as well. Jiao Jiao secures P1. Recon to the inside line though. Is he going to try and dive it down the inside? No. I think Recon in the last couple of weeks has tried to go for a move like that and forced it down the inside. Recon hanging back, which is good to see. He's got a 3-second time penalty. Doesn't want to pick up another one out on track. He still stays in sixth, but Jiao Jiao now noticeably into the lead of the race. From Papetum in second, Verstappen in third, and they're still hanging on quite close to each other.
Yeah, they are not doing too bad at the moment. DRS obviously still enabled, but nowhere near the point of DRS being disabled at this moment in time. We're not seeing too much of a wet line. The rain's not showing too much on the camera lens from the Halo cam at this moment in time, as Lays has managed to get ahead of Bianchi. That was actually into the first Lesmo, so that's a impressive move. I imagine Bianchi must have made a mistake coming out of the Roger chicane, so McLaren getting ahead of the Mercedes for 14th position. And Eloise Mark did mention it's going to be interesting because it's going to be a gamble to stay out on the soft tyres. I do think they will be fine. I was imagining we'd be seeing pit stops around about lap 10 or lap 11 anyway, and they should be fine if they do need to stretch it that extra lap. They should. I reckon it won't be a problem for them to do so at this moment in time. It's just whether who's going to be the first one to blink if you're in this train. Surely Jiao Jiao and Papetum, they're not going to do anything silly, and they might end up leaving it a lap earlier. If you're a bit lower down, like Noon for example, you might come in a bit early for the intermediate tyres, although I do think this is way too early, and it's actually a set of mediums going on his car.
It is a set of mediums, obviously feeling not confident enough to go on the set of inters, but then again, I reset what I said earlier on. Is it going to be one of those races where it starts to rain out on track, but it never turns wet, and everyone is out on track, on a set of softs, on a set of mediums? We'll see as the laps progress how this is all going to unfold out on track. But Jiao Jiao leading the way from Papetum in second. You can see the rain physically coming down. It's not wetting the track, though, at this stage out on track, so these guys can keep on hammering out their lap times. But you would imagine with the pit window now being open for those soft runners, Jiao Jiao will be hoping to try and get Papetum into this pit stop, and he's holding them off by 0.6 of a second, running down in towards Ascari, a third of the way through here at the Temple of Speed, and it's Jiao Jiao who leads the way from Papetum in second, Verstappen in third. Further down the field, by the way, Armour D recovering from that mistake is up to 15th, Noon now down into 16th of course for his pit stop. Jiao Jiao leading the way, Papetum in second, and now we should see a whole host of pit stops, probably from this lap onwards.
Yeah, I do imagine so. It's, as you were saying, we might never get to that point of the crossover. Last lap around, well, we'll go for this lap now when it updates for Zhao Zhao. 1:23.7, so he's about 2 seconds off his personal best and about 1.5 seconds off of what he did the lap before. Shapalele now into the pits, and Bianchi, surely the only thing this can be for is intermediates.
Pit window was showing intermediates on the right-hand side. That's why I was going to all for. It is now showing intermediates on the right-hand side, and that's what Chapelelli is putting on. So obviously Noon has came out onto a set of mediums. He's gambled, and he is still gambling out on track. Jeff says, obviously, and the Amazon web graphics on the right-hand side says that the pit window is now for intermediates. So this is going to be really fascinating. You've got Noon in 14th position on a set of mediums, and then you've got Chapelelli. The noticeable difference will be, can Chapelelli catch up on those tyres to begin off with, or will Noon begin to pull away? At this stage, looking at the gap, Noon is pulling away, so there's not time for intermediates just yet. I would say probably at the end of lap 11.
Yeah, at this moment in time, looking at the circuit, I'd say, yeah, no one looks to be struggling on traction, especially if you're on the medium tyres. You'll have more tread left. Sometimes we say the softs can do better in these damp conditions, probably not when they're really old soft tyres. And there we go, Bianchi's got a 3-second time penalty and ran off the circuit on the intermediates. The track, I don't feel, is wet enough. When it does change, you need to be on the right tyres at this moment in time. It's all about getting yourself a bit of luck, but all the leaders seem to be carrying on at least. XL Hardy, the first car to come in for what I only can presume is going to be the set of the intermediate tyres, because given the fact that you are going slightly slower, I think you'd be very brave now to put on a set of the dries, but XL Hardy is very brave.
Tell you what, though, I think I can see spray coming off those tyres now, though, out on track. Those guys on the set of softs, I can see the beginnings of spray beginning to come off on the right-hand side. I'm not sure if it was a lock-up as we rode on board with Petum, or if it was spray, but I can confirm, I think, certainly, it might be beginning to get wetter out on track, and the end of lap 11 might be the time where we see DRS disabled out on track. Chapelelli is going to be coming out ahead of Kuhn Glai. 6.7 seconds, he's not losing too much, but it could still be a couple of laps as Bianchi has actually retired into the pit lane. Coming into the pits, he's left the session as well. An absolute disaster for the whole man out on track. But Zhao Zhao leading the way, Petum in second, Verstappen in third. These guys, I think, will be trying to push those tyres as much as possible. Will the head commentator of TTML get something right in terms of the prediction of the end of lap 11? We'll see, as the DRS will be disabled very soon, I would imagine. Chapelelli is still losing time on those tyres. Noon, however, has gone through on Recon down in towards Ascario, down in towards the second Lesmo, in fact, looking at my mini-map. And that is through, and he's up into 12th position, so still not the time for inters, and that's reacted because the top two stay out, Verstappen stays out, Dobby stays out as well. So everyone on the set of softs pretty much staying out at this point, and you would imagine that Lando is going to be the quickest man at this point as well, as Machiro comes into the pit lane.
Yeah, Machiro is into the pits. I wonder if we'll see anyone. Surely if you're on the intermediates now, you're pretty much committed. Recon looks to be getting back onto pace with Noon, so like you said, we're not too far away from the crossover point. It was a 1:26.3 last time around from Zhao Zhao, and it is in that middle sector where we are seeing them lose quite a bit of time. Although I say that, Zhao Zhao's first sector was half a second slower this time around, and when you are on board with some of the cars, although Chapelele's drifting his way through the final corner, it's just not wet enough at this moment in time. It's very tricky if you're on the dry tyres. If you're on the intermediates, though, especially Chapelele, who's done an extra lap, let's not forget, Recon's might have never hit that overheating point. Chapelele might have already cooked his tyres after one lap here.
He could have done, and yeah, Machiro was out ahead of him, coming out the pit lane as well, so Chapelele has really lost time out on track. Zhao Zhao, though, still leading the way out on track from Petum in second. I did say in qualifying that it could be the scenario where it's rained out on track, but it's never wet enough to go on the compounder tyres. And now Lando is sizing up a move right on the back of Dobby. He was close enough coming out of Ascari, but now he's on the back of into Parabolica in fourth position. You can see how they're just struggling to try and manage the tyres round. I'll tell you what, Chapelele looks like he's beginning to stabilise that gap as Zhao Zhao is in, Dobby is in, and I think it's now time possibly for those guys to come in on a set of inters. Petum, however, though, has committed to at least another lap on that set of soft compounder tyres. Matthias, though, is in. I wonder if the rain has suddenly got heavier out on track and we're about to see DRS disabled.
I was thinking the opposite. I was looking
Dobby! Yeah! Verstappen and Dobby going into a set of mediums.
I was thinking the opposite. I was thinking, it probably doesn't look as bad as it did 1 or 2 minutes ago. If I was on this track right now, and I don't make many clever decisions, in fact, me deciding to race in any league is probably not a clever decision, I'd be sticking out on the slick tyres at this moment in time. I'd be thinking, you want to be on the right tyres for that time. If you start making predictions on what the weather can do, there's a reason why weather forecasters get mocked, sometimes unfairly. It's a pretty difficult job, basically trying to predict the future. If the track's dry enough for slick tyres, you want to be on the slick tyres. Yes, it was coming up really close to the pit stop point, I understand, but we're only now just starting to see gaps sort of stabilise between the intermediates and the slick tyres. Zhao is starting to catch up to I'm a D. Yeah. We might be at a crossover point now, but the slicks can probably manage, still maybe for another couple of laps, especially if you're on the mediums.
Yeah, and Zhao is pulling away from Hardy as well, and Hardy's under pressure actually from Verstappen on a fresher compounded tyre, on a one-lap fresher tyres in fact, and now comes the inside line down in towards Ascari, and at last we've seen an overtake. Down the inside he goes, in for Ascari, and Verstappen is through, and he's into 7th position. Great move, he used him as a bit of a braking marker, very late on the brakes, but Verstappen is through, and he's into 7th position as that man there, Papetum, into the pit stops, and he's in for a set of intermediate compound of tyre. Carlsbury is also in, Laser is also in, Zhao's run on the back of Armour D, and DRS has been disabled. This throws a spanner into the works as now Papetum comes out. Hardy will have to come into the pit lane. Verstappen stays out. Verstappen feeling he can try and get those tyres towards the end of the race. I wonder if it's going to be that scenario where DRS is disabled now, but in 6 or 7 laps time, it's going to be dry again.
It could well be. It could well be a mad dash towards the end of this race. Last time around, Recon was 2 seconds faster than Noon, and obviously there was also Zhao really catching up to all those cars ahead of him.
Side.
And yeah, Recon, this is just going to be such a straightforward pass.
Job done. Even ran the outside of Cobra Grande. Even before that, Recon is through on Noon, and he's up into 7th position, and Noon really not fighting that at all out on track, and the sister cars swap positions, and now Dobby is really under pressure as well. Recon might have pulled off a master stroke now, but later on in the race it could come back to haunt these guys on a set of inters, and Matthias is now through, and Recon has just absolutely gone down the inside of Dobby. That was so easy. He's got so much grip in those tyres. Recon now through, and he's into 6th. That was through the exit of the first Lesmo to the second Lesmo where we got that done, and now Recon is on an absolute charge. He is carving his way through the field.
He is indeed, and I know we were saying, well, it might dry up, but going back to being on the right tyres for this moment in time, Recon's pulled out about 4 seconds on 1 lap so far, ahead of Noon. In 5 laps' time, he's got himself a pit stop. And look
Lando,
at that, coming up, just sorry to interrupt there, but trying to come through Parabolica, he's nearly crashed into the back of Hardy just because of how much extra grip he's got. He was about 100 metres behind him going into the corner and had to properly slam on the brakes to avoid causing a collision. Hardy's then got a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. If you went for the medium tyres, I can kind of understand why you did it, but it was a gamble at the time. And it's not paid off for these guys. And Dobby actually still out on the mediums. He was looking for a good result. He is going to drop a long way down the field here. All of a sudden, no grip whatsoever. Matthias gets past him. Carlsbury is going to get past him. I reckon by the time we get to Malesmos, Chapalele is going to be flying through as well.
Yeah, Chapalele then 2 seconds behind Dobby. Dobby hoping to try and stay out. Kumbly also staying out because Verstappen came into the pit lane, of course. Zhao now leads this race, by the way, because of that undercut on Papetum. He leads by 3.5 seconds out on track, and Chapalele, in fact, Dobby just says, here you go, get a free position. Chapalele through, and he's up into 7th position, has made his way through the field very nicely from the start of this race. Amadi is also through on Kumbly, and he's up into 10th position. Kumbly now down into 11th and struggling seemingly with those tyres. But the king of the intermediates currently is Zhao out on track, leading the way from Papetum in 2nd, Lando in 3rd. Laser though was right on the back of Dobby, running down into the braking zone. In fact, halfway through Ascari, he just gets the route done. Dobby had to not take avoiding action. He just didn't have the pace and didn't have the grip going around those, and now Laser is through and he's into 8th position, now coming down in towards Parabolica. I'm a D right on the back of Dobby as well, and these guys will be hoping that this rain stops, and this rain stops right now.
I think even if it stops right now, it's too late for them. Surely they're going to have to come into the pits and just try and crop them. Also, Chapalele into the pits. Has he got some damage, or is he thinking soft tyres here? Because I don't know what he's thinking here. Or is he just thinking the intermediates won't get all the way to the end of the race, because they can usually only do about half of the race, and of course he was the first person to come in for the intermediate tyres, so understandable that he's just worn them out a bit too quicker early on. But this is another point. If it carries on at this intensity of rain, are we going to have to see anyone else maybe come into the pits? Recon, probably the only one who's going to be borderline. I think everyone else should be comfortably able to get to the end on this set of tyres that they're on, unless it stops raining.
Yeah, and there is Recon out on track, 1.8 seconds behind Lando, and on fresher tyres, Lando pulling away from Recon. Gotta say, by the way, Luke, your prediction's not looking too bad at this stage. Papetum, Zhao, Lando in the top three, albeit in different positions. But Zhao leading from Papetum in second, Lando in third, Recon there in fourth. And we saw Lando nearly kill me, the cameraman, to the left-hand side. He was nearly so close toward the outside and ran wide, coming through Ascari. Matthias is under pressure, and Carlsbury now right on the back of the Ferrari, really getting the upper hand here on the back of the Red Bull. And are we going to see an overtake down in towards turn one? Of course, DRS is disabled, and not with that. Little bit of a moment coming up, and now uses up the overtake mode to good effect. And do you know what? This is job done halfway down the straight. Carlsbury is going to absolutely sail on by Matthias. He says goodbye, put you in the rear mirrors, my son. And Carlsbury through, and he's up into fifth.
Yeah, I wonder if Matthias has gone for a bit more of a wet setup, because he did look, even without DRS and the overtake that Carlsbury was using, considering the exit he had, that was a ridiculously big closing speed at this moment in time. Dobby's he's still hanging in there, and do you know what? He's not doing terrible. All of a sudden, he's not doing. I say that as he absolutely butchers the first chicane, so I do apologise, Dobby. I say he wasn't doing terrible. It hasn't. I don't think it's updated on my screen yet, but maybe he did lose about 10 seconds on that lap to the car in front. So I think the reason he didn't drop any positions is because there was a big gap. So I do apologise. It's not working. There we go. If you're losing 10 seconds a lap within 2 laps, that's a pit stop. He was in a really good position. We were talking about Haas before this race and maybe having good Constructors' Championship. I think just even trying to cut the chicane there. There's no grip out there whatsoever. He's going to be right down towards the back of the field. Just needs to come into pits and put the intermediate tyres on. Otherwise, if he pits, he'll be out in 15th. If he doesn't pit, he'll be in 15th and more likely to crash.
Yeah, which is such a shame, I think, for Dobby. Doing a fantastic job he was in the race as well, but now down into 14th position, seemingly Kuhn is going to be right on the back of him probably before the end of this lap is actually done. Zhao out on top then, 3.5 seconds of the gap, 2/3 of the way through here in Italy, and I'm sorry that it's now turned into an absolute ball of a race, from Zhao leading the way from Papetum in second, Lando in third, with Recon in fourth. Really been impressed at, by the way, by Lando's pace. It's 3.8 seconds now, that gap was just under 3 seconds the last time that I saw. So Lando really pacing himself well into this race, and now 4 seconds is the gap between him and Recon. But I'll tell you what, I think maybe the rain is beginning to get lighter.
Maybe it is. Maybe it is. That's the only reason I can think of Dobby staying out is that Jeff is saying as he comes into the pit.
He's in split.
Yeah, and he's retired from the session. So I was going to say the only reason you would stay out is if Jeff was saying this rain is going to stop anytime now. This rain is going to get lighter anytime now.
Goodness me, Zhao's had a right moment coming out of Ascari, half slid it, coming through the exit of Ascari, and he's just lost half a second to Papetum in behind. Zhao, my goodness me, how on earth he saved that coming through Ascari is absolutely beyond me, and that brings Papetum now to within 2.6 seconds.
Not that important at the moment, but if Zhao picks up a penalty, that could be incredibly important indeed. I'll check how many penalties are on at the moment. Zhao's only had 1 warning, Papetum has had 2 warnings. So if anything, Papetum is the one most likely to get a penalty. But maybe you can afford to push a bit more at the moment because he has that 10-second gap all the way back to Lando. We have seen quite a few penalties in this race at the moment. The top 3 drivers kept it clean, as have both of the Alfa Romeos and Chapelele as well. Just get a funny feeling, if he maybe just pitted 1 lap later, or even 2 laps later for the intermediate tyres, he'd have been in a better position because he wouldn't have had to make that second pit stop as XL Hardy's got off the circuit through the Parabolica, and he's coming into the pits. He's
got a puncture, apparently, according to my task system. I'm not sure if that's actually right. Out on track, it says it's the rear right compound tyre. In fact, he's got damage, He's got right front wing damage on that right side end plate. You can see it there. That's my apologies, reading the task system wrong. But he has got right side end plate damage in for a front wing change, and he is now going to continue on in 14th position, seemingly now out of contention but he is into the pit lane. So I wonder if he actually lost it coming through Ascari or through Parabolica where he spun, and now he's dropped down into the pit lane. Hardy then in 14th will still come out on the lead lap. Jaja leading Perpetuum in second, but the gap now closing up to fourth. Recon a second behind, Carsbury is second behind on Recon, and Matthias pretty much around the same gap between them. Are we going to see a three-way battle for fourth before the end?
I think we are. Carsbury was a second faster than Recon last time around, and Matthias was about 8 tenths faster than the Alpha Tower driver, so maybe Recon's are struggling on the older tyres. I said maybe he might have to be someone who might have to think about pitting or think about taking it very careful indeed. Carsbury's really closing up. We know he's got extreme straight line speed. He's not going to go for a move on the brakes. Daniel Ricciardo would think twice about that in the dry, never mind in these intermediate conditions. Got to say though, it's been a fantastic return for Carsbury. Missed last time out at Britain. His best finish of the season was the race before that in Austria. He's looking good at this moment in time. He has got that fight 8 seconds of penalties at the moment, whereas those around him have got 3 seconds. But if he gets past Recon, who knows whether he'll be able to pull that gap and still finish in the top 4.
Just seen Mark's comment, by the way, within the chat. Dobby is the kind of guy to wear shorts in December. It's a really great comment from Mark. Typical Mark comment, I think, out on track. He has retired, though, out of the session. Jaja leading the way from Perpetuum in second. It's still 2.6 seconds the gap. Rumble with Carsbury on the back of Recon, and now coming down in towards Ascari once again for the 20th time out on track. It is Jaja leading the way. Hardy is about to be lapped by the leaders, possibly about 5 seconds, I would say, separating that gap out on track. But Jaja gains 2.9 seconds now, the gap on Perpetuum. So Perpetuum's clearly had a slight mistake out on track, but the pullman with Perpetuum, a 1:17.7. He's not putting that best foot forward in the race. However, he doesn't have to. He just has to do the minimum, to be honest, to retake the championship lead, and that's exactly what he's doing at this point. As Carsbury's within 5 tenths of Recon.
Is Perpetuum going to win this title without winning the race?
Possibly. You never know. 3-second time penalty could add up for Jojo, could add up for Perpetuum towards the end of the race. Carsbury right on the back of Recon, down in towards turn 1. He's got very good straight line speed, he has, the Finn. Now to turn 2, and now up towards Curva Grande at turn 3. I tell you what, this could be moved on down in towards the next chicane. Recon 4th, Carsbury in 5th, but I don't think Carsbury's got enough ERS to try and get the move done on Recon. Recon just sees and pulls away, and Recon stays in 4th for now. Carsbury, if I've got to be honest, if he saves up his ERS just that little bit more, he could be right on the back and maybe through on Recon this lap around.
Yeah, this is the problem with these intermediate conditions. There is a drier line on track. Definitely not a dry line, but there is a drier line. And if you go off that line, it is extremely slippery indeed. So Carsbury thought about going all the way around the outside at Curva Grande. I think we'd have just seen a massive spin. Then he'd have probably been facing the wrong direction. If he was lucky. If he was unlucky, he'd have no front wing and maybe no front wheel. So he's going to have to try and surprise Recon here. But if he goes offline into turn 1, into the Retifilo chicane and slams on the brakes, he could very well find that he's got no grip whatsoever. Even if he does use ABS, I'm not quite sure what assist Carsbury does use, but even if he does use it, he'll find it hard to slow down. If he doesn't use it, it's probably going to be impossible to slow down, never mind difficult. Always tricky in these conditions, especially as well with no DRS. We do always say, oh, we love wet weather races, it can make things a bit more exciting. It's more when you are at that changeable point. Things have sort of calmed down now, although Carsbury has got a slight chance here. Is he going to be brave enough to go on the brakes into turn 1? And that's what I'm on about. The line was just too tight, although Recon has gone extremely deep.
Switch back through turn 2 for Carsbury, right on the back of Recon. And yeah, just come from Carsbury, does run ABS. Recon doesn't, and now to the inside through Curva Grande. Recon is going to try and jump him. Oh, and he's got caught in the grass, and Carsbury's round. Carsbury ran into the gravel, goes spearing off. That car is off. That could be a safety car getting deployed, and it is a safety car getting deployed out on track. So what happens here now? Out on track, Carsbury just got caught in the inside curve, coming through Curva Grande, and has spun round and is out of the race and deploys the safety car with barely 5.5 laps to go. Jojo out on top on Perpetuum in second, Lando in third. Rain is still falling out on track. I think it's going to be Inters towards the end of this race. What do the guys do though? Do they stay out on that compounded tyre, or do they come in for a fresh set of Inters that'll make sure that they get to the end of the race? Decision time for the drivers out on track.
Decision time indeed. The intermediates will lose a lot of temperature under the safety car, so it might be quite difficult to do a restart, and Zhao Zhao's coming in. So surely if you're Perpetuum, you do the opposite.
Out. And indeed he does. He stays out on track, so Perpetuum now inherits that race lead. Zhao Zhao in second. Lando, by the way, is only coming through Parabolic when Zhao Zhao's into his pit box now. And he's gone on for a set of soft compound of tyre. Is he mad? Is he absolutely mad?
Yes, Zhao Zhao.
It is Zhao Zhao, but I mean, he's nearly scribbled his way coming out the pit lane, let alone coming down in towards turn one. Perpetuum then out on top, Lando in second, and it's Zhao Zhao in third. But Zhao Zhao has gone into a set of soft compound tyres. In fact, Recon's on, Matthias is on, Laser also going onto a set of soft compound tyres as well. So these guys are trying something different. In fact, Laser onto a set of Inters out on track, but Recon and Matthias trying the same strategy as Zhao Zhao. I'm not sure if it's going to work, and I'm not sure if this rain's going to relent before the end of this race.
If this rain doesn't stop before the end of this safety car, I will eat my hat. Because why else would drivers as skilled, as talented as Zhao Zhao, Recon, Matthias, and Machero, and probably Chapalele and Noon as well, all come in to put the soft tyres on unless they thought this track is ready for soft tyres? The difficulty is going to be, I think just this period now, they'll be going full speed to try to catch up to the safety car. I've done this before in a race where the safety car came out for full width because the track was that wet and I decided to stick it out on intermediates, and I struggled to catch up to the safety car. I was in a good position once I'd finally managed to catch up to the safety car, but by that point I'd ruined my intermediate tyres. This is going to be interesting indeed now. Perpetuum leading, Lando second, Zhao Zhao in third. They've just got to be praying that either the safety car stays out an incredibly long time or the rain stops right now. And even if it does stop right now, I'm not sure if it's going to get, for the first lap or two, it's going to be the intermediate tyres that still have the advantage. By the time these soft tyres have the advantage, it might be the final lap. It might be the parade lap at the end on the way back to the pits.
I'm not sure, actually, if I'm seeing much spray coming off those tyres out in front of these leaders. Perpetuum out on top, Lando in second, Zhao Zhao in third. I think it is visible to see the spray coming off the tyres. You can see it there with Lando, certainly. Zhao Zhao in third position. Has he risked it for a chocolate biscuit, or for a bourbon biscuit, or for a biscuit that you might be impartial to? Zhao Zhao in third, Imadi in fourth, Verstappen in fifth. Currently out on track with 4 laps to go. We are going to get a sprint regardless of the conditions, regardless of how this is going to appear out on track. The rain is stopping, I would say, out on track. I use that word very, very lightly indeed, but the rain appears to me to be stopping out on track. It is still raining, but I think it's beginning to get a lot lighter out on track compared to where we were a lap ago.
I was going to say, if this was, well, Chapalele's actually now gone for a set of soft tyres as well. I was going to say, if this was like cricket, you'd still be stopping play at the moment. You're not going to be bothering. If this was Lords or Wimbledon, you'd be sticking on. You'd be heading back into the dressing rooms at this moment in time. I think the rain has now actually pretty much stopped. It's just whether it dries out quickly enough, which, this is going to be a very interesting restart here. If you're Zhao Zhao, you've got to be so light on the throttle. Everyone on the soft tyres could easily end up spinning the wheels out of Parabolica and end up facing the wrong direction with goodness knows how many Formula 1 cars heading towards them, which would be a scary situation. But because the field hasn't closed up, the safety car's staying out another lap, and this is playing right into the hands of the soft runners.
It is playing right into the hands, and I've got to be honest, there is hardly any spray, as I mentioned, coming off those tyres out in front. It's still very greasy out on track, but the more time that is held behind this safety car, the more that you will feel that Zhao Zhao is going to be quicker, certainly on, I think, the final lap of the race especially, rather than lap 26 where we will go on to. It's Perpetuum leading the way, Imadi is in, Verstappen is in. They sense that DRS is going to be enabled under this safety car start. In fact, actually, to correct myself, there's going to be no DRS for this race towards the end of the race, because we're only going to get 2 laps worth of action. We're going to see the safety car come in this lap. There's going to be no safety car. Chapalele's picked up a drive-through penalty for speeding under the safety car out on track to try and even catch up. Perpetuum on top, Lando in second, Zhao Zhao in third. You would imagine it's going to play into the soft runners, but with no DRS, Zhao Zhao could find this task a hell of a lot difficult.
Yeah, but Chapalele, I wonder if he's had a bit of a penalty glitch here, because I've seen this happen before where deltas, for some reason, sometimes you get a delta when you're not supposed to, and everyone can see it. Well, the game can see it, but you can't. He's having to slam on the brakes at this moment in time. There we go.
Oh, yeah, he has.
Surely he's going to end up getting disqualified from the session here.
Stop the car. Schiaparelli out in 12th position then. He's picked up 40 seconds worth of penalties now, and a drive-through penalty to go on top of that as well. And I think he's actually now got back under the delta, and I wonder if it's fixed itself, because we haven't seen a 20-second time penalty for a while for Schiaparelli, which I'm very glad to report. Down into Ascari, we should see the safety car lights go out, and now they do. And Perpetum is the virtual Burmarlander now out on track. He is the safety car. You can see the red on the back of that car flashing to indicate that Lando is on the back. But Zhao Zhao in 3rd position. How is he going to get this run off on this safety car start? And the top 10, top 11 will be on the safety car. Schiaparelli and Hardy, you have to feel sorry for, who aren't going to get onto the back in time. Perpetum is going to lead. 2 laps worth of action could turn into an absolute massacre out on track with Perpetum and Lando out on top on a set of inters. But here we go, Perpetum about to get ready to absolutely launch it, coming through Parabolic. It's still not going, and now he says go. Perpetum leading the way, but Zhao Zhao's got an awesome start. Lando is under pressure here from Zhao Zhao, running down in towards turn 1. This will be the big test for Zhao Zhao to try and get the car stopped, let alone to drive. But no, spray coming off those tyres really ill in front. Perpetum leading the way. Zhao Zhao around the outside of Lando, tries to get the move done. He could try and get the move done on Perpetum as well. It's absolutely brilliant from Zhao Zhao if he can pull it off. He's on the outside line and he gets the move done. Zhao Zhao is through cleanly with the soft runners. He is through into the lead of the race. Absolute bold bravery from him. Matthias now down the inside line trying to launch it on Perpetum down into the chicane. Perpetum hangs on, but Zhao Zhao has got the lead. It's still really not soft Commentators running out on track, but Zhao Zhao leads Matthias in 2nd. I think Ahmadi has been spun coming through the 2nd chicane.
Oh, it's all kicking off here all of a sudden. It's that one extra lap under the safety car has done it for these drivers on the intermediates. They might have been able to get a second or 2 ahead and had half a chance of getting a decent result, but Perpetum and Lando are just going to drop like a stone at this moment in time, just keeping it clean and hoping they can gain time on penalties might be the thing at the moment. But Zhao Zhao, he's so far ahead at the moment. We've got Matthias 2nd. Recon gets ahead of Lando, as does Noon. And Lando's in the wall.
Yeah, Lando in the wall. Recon just pushed him up on the inside line. To be fair, Recon had got the run on him, and now Recon's got the run on Noon. Tries to look to the inside line. Noon tries to go all the way around the outside of Perpetum. This is bold. This is brave. Perpetum forced him off track, and Recon's got them both down on the inside line like a part in the Red Sea on the curb. Recon is through. It's the final lap of the race, and it's turning into an absolute massacre, as I said. Zhao Zhao leading the way from Matthias in 2nd. Later in 3rd, Schiaparelli has retired for speeding into the pit lane. Perpetum, though, was a sitting duck, running down the straight. Recon, Noon on the inside line. Mashiro and Verstappen trying to get through as well. A little bit of contact between them both, and Perpetum is going to drop down the field massively here. He might not even take the championship lead by the end of this race. Kuhn Bly has been overtaken by Ahmadi. Verstappen now through. Mashiro trying to get through on the outside line now. Coming through Curvagrande now into the chicane, and Perpetum backs off. Oh, and in fact, gets a little bit of a mistake, and Mashiro handed Ray 3-second time penalty. That won't be removed. Perpetum is round. Hardy now into set of soft competitor. Lando struggling on a set of inters. Half a lap to go. Zhao Zhao leading the way. Matthias in 2nd. Later in 3rd. Perpetum, though, 10th position from out on track. I think by my maths, that's not enough to take the championship lead.
He's got a puncture as well. Perpetum's got a puncture, and it's a rear left puncture. This is going to be very difficult to get towards the end. He's not going to get the championship lead at the moment, because 11th is his best finish, and he will get the pole position points. But Zhao Zhao, he's getting the 30 points for the race victory, and it's Recon who's going to get the fastest lap. But it's been a fantastic debut from Zhao Zhao.
Zhao Zhao around the final corner to take the win out on track. The Dane on his debut with DRS enabled coming across the line. Matthias in 2nd, later in 3rd. And Noon and Verstappen are side by side, nearly coming across the line and behind. They get 4th and 5th in the end. Recon there in 6th, Perpetum dropping all the way down, unfortunately for him. Ahmadi in 7th, Kuhn Bly in 8th in the end. He managed to get home on that set of inters. Mashiro 9th, Hardy in 10th. Lando has got the move done on Perpetum late on in this race. And Lando is steering up into 11th. Perpetum in the end, what promises to be as Lando actually spins the car, nearly crashes his way out of the race, and Perpetum actually could try and take the position, even with this slow puncture. Lando has got to get a move on. It is like the tortoise and the snail, and Perpetum is through, and he's into 11th.
It's because Lando's got a puncture.
And Lando's got a puncture. He drives his way to the pit lane, loses his front wing damage. Absolute mayhem out on track. Perpetum in 11th. Lando finishing the race in the pit lane in 12th position. but Zhao Zhao has taken the win. I said before he might be the dark horse of the race. I really didn't mean it literally, and Zhao Zhao has taken the win out on track. Driver of the day, awarded by the in-game fans, is Laser.
Yeah, and I imagine the Ferrari driver's absolutely fuming about that safety car. Calls me because it took him out of the race. Perpetuum because he'd have finished in second place because the race wouldn't have dried up if we hadn't have had that safety car, of course. Those few laps, we probably wouldn't have seen the rain stop until lap 26 or lap 27. But a fantastic debut there from Zhao Zhao. Brilliant to see a few different people on the podium as well. Laser getting his first podium of the season, and Matthias getting actually another podium, his second place of the season, with his second podium.
I'm a D, summing that up in 5 words on Discord. Jeff has lost the plot. Zhao Zhao winning out on track from Matthias in second. Laser from 15th on the grid up to third. Really good performance from the Brit with Noon in fourth and Verstappen 600th of a second off in fifth. Recon in sixth with Armady in seventh. Kuhnblai in eighth. Mashiro in ninth. Hardy does get beneficiary actually for fastest lap, so he gets fastest lap point as well as 10th. Perpetuum in the end in 11th. He had no penalties out on track, but again, luckless out on track. Lando in 12th. Schiaparelli crashing under the safety car, spinning split and then retiring under the safety car, I should say, in 13th. Carsby, Dobby, Bianchi and Bullet Boy not finishing the race. Bullet Boy didn't even get to complete a lap. He was third coming into the championship tonight, and now he's going to be dropping it down out on track. But goodness me, that was mayhem. I said it might have been a massacre with 2 laps to go. I really did not mean it that way, honestly. But a fantastic race out on track. Zhao Zhao has won. Shall we try and get our top 3 in?
We shall indeed. I think that everyone is just trying to comprehend what on earth happened towards the end of that race. It was the transition period for the softs, well, for the slick tyres onto the intermediates seemed to take about 5 laps. The transition period from intermediates back onto the slicks seemed to take about 5 seconds. The track, there was spray, then there was no spray, and it was just so easy for everyone to manage to get that move done. And we saw did it even get... Obviously, we don't know if the track was dry enough for DRS to have been disabled because of the safety car, but I imagine it would definitely have been. And Zhao Zhao, he made all the calls at the right time. He didn't panic, and it wouldn't surprise me if he listened to Jeff, because Jeff gets a lot of criticism, but he usually knows when it's the right time to put the slick tyres on or put the intermediate tyres on.
Yeah, I'm definitely not happy with Jeff, I would say. Jeff is probably the main beneficiary, I think, out of all the blame here tonight with those that transition period, which has got to be honest, I've got to be honest and say that's probably one of the worst transition periods I've seen on Trecetta soft compound tyre. Right at the end of the race, pretty much, DRS was enabled coming across the start-finish line right at the end of the race. So literally, a lap underneath that safety car could have turned it a different way, but we have been joined by our race winner out on track. It is IFR_Zhao Zhao. And Zhao Zhao, a fantastic win for you out on track. First of all, can you hear us? And second of all, talk us through your race.
Thank you very much. And yes, I can hear you.
Really glad you can hear us. Talk us through that, because honestly, that was a masterstroke of a strategy from you out on track. And that safety car really played into your hands.
Yeah, it did actually. Yes, at the start I got a perfect start and got in front of the Ferrari in front of me. So at that point I was just controlling the race and finding the rhythm until he overtook me again. And I knew the rain was coming mid part of the race, so I was just staying behind him until I saw the rain coming, because. Then I decided to overtake him, because it's so hard to overtake in the wet. So being in front is very important. And then
being in front is... Oh, go on.
And then then Jeff called me in for Inters, and I trusted him for once, and it was perfect.
It was perfect, and towards the end of that race as well, that very late safety car coming out on track, and with only 2 laps to go, I thought you would have been absolutely buggered, if I've got to be honest, by the DRS, the lack of DRS on those final 2 laps. But the track underneath that safety car just came alive for the soft runners, and that's what got you the win in the end.
Yeah, usually in this game, it said at the start that it was gonna dry up at the end, so so I had that in my head, and then the safety car came out, which really helped me because my inters was at like almost 80%, I think, or something. And then usually in this game, when it says it's gonna dry up, it usually does pretty quickly. So I just thought, let's just go for it, and was pretty confident that it was gonna dry up. So and then I won.
Perfect, a picture-perfect strategy call from you out on track, and of course, you have raced an FRL in the past, and I know that's where you have applied your trade. But coming into tonight, this is your debut race, if I'm not mistaken, in TTML. How was that for a debut race?
Pretty good.
Don't blame you for feeling that way at all. I'll pass you over to my co-commentator, who might have a couple of questions.
Yeah, congratulations, Zhao Zhao, on the victory. I just want to talk about the start of the race. You must have the quickest reactions known to man. It was an absolutely fantastic start.
Yeah, it was almost perfect. Pretty good reactions.
As soon as the safety car came out, we were always then committed. Right, I'm going to the soft tyres because I imagine Jeff's weather report was saying the rain will stop soon.
I was almost 100% sure.
And were you how much did it help that the safety car stayed out probably one lap longer than it normally would? Because that might have made it a bit more difficult. Those on the intermediates might have been able to build a bit of a gap. So I imagine that was a bit of a relief when the safety car, the longer it stayed out, the more it played into the hands of the soft runners like yourself.
Yeah, I just saw that some people pitted one lap before it was coming in, and then I knew it was going to stay up one more lap. And as you said, that just played into my hands. So that was also perfect.
Yeah, a perfect day for yourself. Congratulations on the win, and who knows whether we'll see you on the podium again in the final few races.
Thank you very much.
And final question before you go off as well. Of course, next week, and I have to remind myself of the calendar at this point, so bear with me while I get this up. Next week, we go to Singapore. So Singapore, obviously, a much different track to the Temple of Speed here in Italy. How do you rate your chances if you're going to be racing next week?
I mean, I like Singapore more than I like Italy, and I get to do some more practice. I got this seat yesterday, so only one day of practice. So I think my chances are better, but let's see.
One day of practice and you win the race here in TTML Division 1. Absolutely brilliant stuff. I will let you go and enjoy your evening.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. And I'm not sure if anybody else has joined us in the party. I haven't seen any notifications of people picking up. I think it's only us three, of course, with Tom in the background. So I don't think anybody else is willing enough to let us join in their bit of their time and have their time wasted by us two interviewing them.
Yeah, I think Matthias and Laser might just be thinking, how on earth I ended up on the podium? Because Zhao Zhao, he was looking pretty good anyway, obviously, for the race win, whereas Zhao Zhao had probably a lot to lose from going onto those soft tyres. If it had carried on raining for 2-3 minutes longer, he would have been the one dropping down the field, or probably not Lando and Perpetuum. But that's actually led me on to another interesting point. If the rain had carried on a bit longer and we'd have had that safety car, would we have seen everyone dive into the pits for fresh intermediate tyres, I wonder? Because Perpetuum got a puncture coming through the Roger chicane, and I think Lando got his puncture coming through Parabolica on the final corner, and that ended up costing him a point. Who knows whether that extra point for Perpetuum will be all important at the end of the season.
It could be indeed. And Medium Product, I do believe, still leads the championship coming into next week in Singapore. And I'll have a look through the virtual championship as it stands when it loads for me on the task system. But I'll come across to you while that happens. Who on earth was your driver of the day?
I mean, you can't really look past Zhao Zhao, can you? He made all the strategy calls perfect, didn't get any penalties, didn't panic in the conditions, got a fantastic start, ended up claiming a victory.
He did end up claiming the victory out on track. And I've got to agree. I think Zhao Zhao definitely gets my vote as well for driver of the day. And Medium Pilot, by the way, leads going into next week by 2 points. 2 points, 125 for Perpetuum after scoring 11 points out on track with that puncture. which really cost him towards the end of the race as well. So hopefully it is going to be fantastic to see out on track. And Papetin, by the way, only scoring 9 points, I should say. So he is up onto 125. That doesn't make sense to me. Oh, because he got the two pole position points, didn't he? That's why. He's on 125, and it's only added 9 points, apparently. But there we are. Papetin then will be 2 points behind, and going into next week in Singapore, he's got to try and claw something back.
Pretty much the opposite of Italy. We said Italy was going to be a really quick race. That didn't happen because of the weather. Singapore, if we do get any wet weather, if we do get any safety car, you're talking an hour plus for the race time. It's a proper tyre killer of a circuit. 2 stop strategies, 1 stop strategies. I've done races where it started dry, gone to full wet conditions, and gone back to dry at the end. And I've done races where it's been wet, gone to dry tyres, and been full wet again at the end of the race. Who knows what Singapore has in store for us? The drivers are going to have to definitely get some practice in. I think Zhao Zhao will be doing more than the 1 day of practice for the next race.
Well, if he gets another 1 day of practice in, surely he's going to win next week. We'll have to wait and find out. And you guys in the chat, of course, will have to wait and find out for next week in Singapore. We have got more action coming for you this week, of course. And tomorrow night is the debut of a brand new league. It is EML League 1 and League 2. So EML League 1 is going to be taking you through by Aidan Carter. That's at 8 p.m. Daniel Hoggard taking you through, I believe, for 7 p.m.'s action for League 2. Basically, it's because we've got more drivers to run 2 tiers. It's as simple as that. Pretty much the same that you've been seeing the first couple of weeks, but just across 2 divisions. More fun for you guys. And Thursday, of course, we also have Division 2 and Division 3. It is going to be Daniel Hoggard and Michael Edwards taking you to Division 2. Division 3 is Aidan Carter and Conti. Division 4 will be the return of Paco Suarez alongside me in the commentary box. And then Division 5, James Boyle taking you through the action, along with a possible special guest commentator for the final 4 rounds of the season from next week. And I cannot wait to reveal you who that is going to be, as I have been in contact with him in the last couple of days or so, confirming that he is going to be commentating alongside James for Division 5 going forward for the rest of the season. But it has been an absolute pleasure to bring you the action here in Division 1 tonight for TTML. And as always, please keep safe in this crazy world we all live in. Sunderland, by the way, won 1-0 just to put the mockers on Mr. Luke Etheridge's Doncaster Rovers. And for myself, James Head, and from Mr. Luke Etheridge. No, we need to do this properly, don't we? I've been James Head.
I've been a supporter of a team that won a game tonight, Luke Etheridge.
Thank you so much for tuning in. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you next time.
My compass was wrong, and I'm still on my way closer to where I belong. I'm still rolling the dice, praying sometimes don't last it long. I'm losing my faith, I'm walking away from what you knew all along. Mama told me before you leave, if there's only one thing you remember from me, child, when you're out on your own, a million miles from home, feeling the weight of the world on your shoulders. Child, don't forget who you are, don't lose your head or your heart. I bet my life on your star, you'll be dancing, dancing on the moon. I bet my life, you'll be dancing on the moon. I bet my life, you'll be dancing on the moon. have the world on your shoulders. Child, don't forget who you are. Don't lose your head or your heart. I bet my life on your stars. You'll be dancing, dancing on the moon.
Somehow I woke up out in Beverly, fucked up, smelling like that bourbon, and I end up alone. I'm not certain. Yeah, the girls impolite in the club every night. That's how it goes when you Hollywood perfect. Hollywood perfect. That's how it goes when you Hollywood perfect. Ain't got no place to call my own. Feels like I'm better off alone. So sad inside and hopeless. These Hollywood hoes never notice. Can't get back on. Girl, I miss you. Can't get back on. Girl, I miss you. Somehow I woke up out in Beverly, fucked up, smelling like that bourbon, and I end up alone. I'm not certain. Yeah, the girls impolite in the club every night. That's how it goes when you Hollywood perfect. Hollywood perfect. That's how it goes when you Hollywood perfect. Woke up out in Beverly, fucked up, smelling like that bourbon, how'd I end up alone? I'm not certain. Yeah, the girls impolite in the club every night. Somehow I woke up out in Beverly,